Galatians 5 verse 18. But if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under Torah. What is the true context of Galatians chapter 5? Compared to most religion teaching doctrine today, the most common religious interpretation today is, if you are led by the Spirit, you no longer need to obey Torah. But this creates a contradiction with the rest of Scripture. Psalm 119 verse 142. Your righteousness is righteousness forever, and your Torah is truth. Psalm 119 verse 172. My tongue sings of your word, for all your commands are righteousness. Isaiah 2 verse 3. And many peoples shall come and say, Come, and let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh, to the house of the Elohim of Jacob, and let him teach us his ways, and let us walk in his paths. For out of Zion comes forth the Torah, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem. Matthew 5 verse 17 to 19. Do not think that I came to destroy the Torah or the prophets. I did not come to destroy but to complete. For truly I say to you, till the heaven and the earth pass away, one jot or one tittle shall by no means pass from the Torah till all be done. Whoever then breaks one of the least of these commands and teaches men so, shall be called least in the reign of the heavens. But whoever does and teaches them, he shall be called great in the reign of the heavens. If the Spirit of Yahweh leads people away from Torah, then the Spirit would be leading people away from Yahweh's own word. This is impossible. The key is to understand what Paul means by under Torah. Galatians is not about whether Torah is good or bad. Galatians is about whether a person can be declared righteous by works of Torah, apart from faithful obedience and the redemptive work of Messiah. Galatians 2 verse 16. Knowing that a man is not declared right by works of Torah, but through belief in Yahusha Messiah. Even we have believed in Messiah Yahusha, in order to be declared right by belief in Messiah and not by works of Torah. Because by works of Torah no flesh shall be declared right. Paul is addressing a false teaching that Gentiles had to enter a legal status of righteousness through circumcision and proselyte conversion in order to be saved. Galatians 5 verse 18 does not say, you are not to keep Torah. It says, you are not under Torah. Under Torah, in this context, means under its condemnation, penalty, and judgment against sin. Romans 3 verse 19. And we know that whatever the Torah says, it says to those who are in the Torah, so that every mouth might be stopped, and all the world come under judgment before Elohim. The Torah condemns sinners. The Spirit transforms sinners into obedient children. Therefore, those walking in the Spirit are not under the condemnation that the Torah pronounces against rebellion. The context proves this, Galatians 5 verse 16. And I say, walk in the Spirit, and you shall not accomplish the lust of the flesh. Galatians 5 verse 17. For the flesh lusts against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh, and these are opposed to each other, so that you do not do what you desire to do. Galatians 5 verse 18. But if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under Torah. Notice this. Shaul is comparing flesh versus spirit. He is not comparing Torah versus spirit. Most religious doctrines read the text as flesh against spirit and Torah against spirit. But Shaul never makes that second comparison. The real contrast is flesh equals sin and spirit equals obedience. This becomes even clearer in the next verses. Galatians 5 verse 19 to 21. And the works of the flesh are well known, which are these: adultery, whoring, uncleanness, indecency, idolatry, drug sorcery, hatred, quarrels, jealousies, fits of rage, selfish ambitions, dissensions, factions, envy, murders, drunkenness, wild parties, and the like, of which I forewarn you, even as I also said before, that those who practice such as these shall not inherit the reign of Elohim. Where do we learn these things are sin? Definitely from Torah. The very sins Shaul condemns are defined by Torah. Therefore, Shaul cannot be teaching against Torah. He is using Torah's definition of sin. 1 John 3 verse 4. And everyone having this expectation in him cleanses himself, as he is clean. Romans 7 verse 7. What then shall we say? Is the Torah sin? Let it not be. However, I did not know sin except through the Torah. For also the covetousness I knew not, if the Torah had not said, you shall not covet. Then Shaul gives the fruit of the Spirit. Galatians 5 verse 22 to 23. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, trustworthiness, gentleness, self-control. Against such there is no Torah. Against such there is no Torah. Why? Because Torah never condemns righteous behavior. The Torah condemns sin. It does not condemn the fruit of the Spirit. That is the meaning of not under Torah. The Spirit produces the very character that Torah requires. Jeremiah 31 verse 33, I shall put my Torah in their inward parts and write it on their hearts. Ezekiel 36 verse 26 to 27, I shall put my Spirit within you and cause you to walk in my laws and guard my right rulings and shall do them. Notice the deepest revelation. The Spirit was never given to abolish Torah. The Spirit was given to enable obedience to Torah from the heart. This is the great error of many religious systems. They teach, Torah is the old way, Spirit is the new way. But Scripture teaches, Torah written on stone into Torah written on hearts. External command into internal transformation. Fleshly obedience into Spirit-empowered obedience. Galatians 5 verse 18 is not freedom from Yahweh's instructions. It is freedom from the condemnation that comes upon those who walk in rebellion. The one walking in the Spirit does not need the Torah to condemn him, because the Spirit is already leading him into the righteousness that the Torah teaches. Romans 8 verse 4, so that the righteousness of the Torah should be completed in us, who do not walk according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit. Therefore, the true context of Galatians 5 verse 18 is, not the Spirit replaces Torah, not Torah is abolished, not obedience is unnecessary, but rather, those who are led by the Spirit are no longer under the Torah's condemnation, because the Spirit leads them away from sin and into the righteous walk that Yahweh desires. This harmonizes Galatians 5 with Jeremiah 31 verse 33, Ezekiel 36 verse 27, Romans 3 verse 31, Romans 7 verse 12, Romans 8 verse 4, Matthew 5 verse 17 to 19, and 1 John 3 verse 4 without contradiction. Why do many religious systems use Galatians chapter 5 to teach that the Torah was abolished? The answer is found in the difference between reading Galatians through the lens of Torah and the prophets, or reading it through later theological traditions. The deepest issue is not Galatians itself. The issue is the definition of the words Shaul uses. Many read, law means Torah, grace means no Torah, Spirit means no Torah, faith means no Torah. But Shaul never defines these terms this way. When these assumptions are imported into Galatians, the chapter appears to teach the abolition of Torah. When the chapter is read in the context of the entire Scripture, a different picture emerges. Galatians was written to combat a false path to righteousness. The issue was, how is a person accepted by Yahuwah? Shaul's answer, not by human effort, not by circumcision as a means of justification, not by ethnic status, not by religious identity, but through faithful trust in Yahuwah and his Messiah. Galatians 2 verse 16, knowing that a man is not declared right by works of Torah, but through belief in Yahusha Messiah. Even we have believed in Messiah Yahusha, in order to be declared right by belief in Messiah and not by works of Torah, because by works of Torah no flesh shall be declared right. Shaul is addressing justification. He is not attacking Torah itself. If Shaul were attacking Torah, he would be attacking the very word of Yahuwah. Psalm 19 verse 7, the Torah of Yahuwah is perfect, bringing back the being. The witness of Yahuwah is trustworthy, making wise the simple. Psalm 119 verse 142, your righteousness is righteousness forever, and your Torah is truth. Psalm 119 verse 160, the sum of your word is truth, and all your righteous right rulings are forever. Therefore, Galatians cannot be teaching that Yahuwah's perfect word was cancelled. The first level of error is confusing justification with obedience. Shaul says no one is justified by works. Many then assume obedience is no longer required. That conclusion does not follow. Abraham was accepted by faith, yet Abraham obeyed. My charge, my commands, my laws, and my Torah. Faith and obedience were never enemies. The next error is failing to understand the phrase under Torah. Galatians 5 verse 18, but if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under Torah. Many assume under Torah means obeying Torah. But Shaul's usage shows something different. Under Torah refers to being under its condemnation and curse because of sin. Galatians 3 verse 10, for as many as are of works of Torah are under the curse, for it has been written, cursed is everyone who does not continue in all that has been written in the book of the Torah to do them. The problem is not Torah. The problem is sin. Torah reveals sin. Romans 7 verse 7. What then shall we say? Is the Torah sin? Let it not be. However, I did not know sin except through the Torah. For also the covetousness I knew not, if the Torah had not said, you shall not covet. Being under Torah in Galatians refers to the position of the transgressor standing under its judgment. The next error is reading Galatians chapter 5 as spirit versus Torah. But Paul presents spirit versus flesh. If you read the entire flow, Galatians 5 verse 16, and I say, walk in the spirit and you shall not accomplish the lust of the flesh. Galatians 5 verse 17, for the flesh lusts against the spirit and the spirit against the flesh. And these are opposed to each other so that you do not do what you desire to do. Galatians 5 verse 18, but if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under Torah. Galatians 5 verse 19 verse 21, and the works of the flesh are well known. Which are these? Adultery, whoring, uncleanness, indecency, idolatry, drug sorcery, hatred, quarrels, jealousies, fits of rage, selfish ambitions, dissensions, factions, envy, murders, drunkenness, wild parties, and the like, of which I forewarn you, even as I also said before, that those who practice such as these shall not inherit the reign of Elohim. Galatians 5 verse 22 to 23. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, trustworthiness, gentleness, self-control. Against such there is no Torah. The chapter never says, Torah against spirit. The chapter says, flesh against spirit. This is a critical distinction. The next error is ignoring the definition of sin. Shaul lists idolatry, sexual immorality, uncleanness, murder, drunkenness, jealousy, hatred. Where do these categories come from? They come from Torah. Without Torah, there is no objective definition of sin. 1 John 3 verse 4, everyone doing sin also does lawlessness, and sin is lawlessness. If Torah is abolished, then the definition of sin collapses. Yet Shaul is using Torah's definitions throughout Galatians chapter 5. The next level of understanding is found in the fruit of the Spirit. Galatians 5 verse 22 to 23. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. The chapter concludes, against such there is no Torah. Why? Because Torah does not condemn righteousness. The Torah condemns sin. The Spirit produces righteousness. Therefore the Spirit and Torah are not enemies. The Spirit produces what Torah requires. The deeper level of revelation is found in the New Covenant promises. Jeremiah 31 verse 33. I shall put my Torah in their inward parts and write it on their hearts. Ezekiel 36 verse 27. I shall put my spirit within you and cause you to walk in my laws. Notice the connection. Torah written on hearts. Spirit given to empower obedience. The Spirit does not remove Torah. The Spirit internalizes Torah. Galatians chapter 5 is not about abolishing Torah. It is about the restoration of the human heart. The flesh cannot obey Yahweh. The natural man resists his instructions. The Spirit transforms the heart so that obedience flows from within. The true battle of Galatians chapter 5 is not Torah versus grace. It is not Torah versus spirit. It is flesh versus spirit, rebellion versus transformation, sin versus righteousness. The great misunderstanding of many religious traditions is that they interpret freedom from the condemnation of Torah as freedom from Torah itself. But Scripture presents a different picture. Romans 3 verse 31. Do we then nullify the Torah through the belief? Let it not be. On the contrary, we establish the Torah. Romans 7 verse 12. So that the Torah truly is set apart, and the command set apart and righteous and good. Romans 8 verse 4. So that the righteousness of the Torah should be completed in us, who do not walk according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit. The message of Galatians chapter 5 is not the abolition of Yahuwah's Torah. It is the transformation of Yahuwah's people from outward religion to inward obedience through the power of His Spirit, so that the righteousness taught by the Torah is produced in there, lives from the heart, rather than through the efforts of the flesh. Thank you for watching, and see you on my next video. May Yahweh baruch us and guides us. Shalom, and have a great Yom.